Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another video. Subconscious sexual orientations. And it's like, oh yeah, from the man who brought you imprinting. We're gonna go still even deeper, yo. And this is kind of a preparation for my next paid video where I talk about sexual personality types. I'm giving y'all a little bit of a preview because when you talk about sexual personality types, you're talking about stuff that's subconscious, subliminal. Most people, if you don't tell them about what's going on or what's within them, they don't know. Because we're only conscious of, at best, maybe the average person, 5% of what's going on within themselves on a conscious level. Everything else is subconscious. Even communication, a lot of that is subconscious if people pay attention to it. So this the subconscious sexual orientations, it has nothing to do with heterosexuality or homosexuality or intersex, anything like that. Those are more conscious. No, the subconscious sexual orientations is more in terms of how a person, regardless of their gender, regardless of their race or their nationality, how all humans express their sexual nature. Now, a little while ago, I had written something, just something brief, a brief note, and it was actually a part of a workshop that I used to present, and I might start presenting that again if I get back into doing seminars. And well, let me read this to you, because this and we'll go from here. There are two sexual drives within all humans. One drive is the one we are all familiar with, the carnal sex drive. This is pure lust. This is the drive that compels us to procreate and seek physical gratification. There is also a second drive that is just as important, the spiritual sex drive. This is the desire to unite with someone based on emotional and intellectual compatibility. For a relationship to truly succeed, both the carnal and the spiritual sex drives must be in balance. As a result of the social environment, people become either too carnal in their sexual expression or too spiritual. People who are more carnal in their sexual expression are called sensual Bohemians. People who are more spiritual in their sexual expression are referred to as reverent intelligensians. Sensual Bohemians are people who primarily seek physical gratification in their relationships. Their entire lifestyle will be geared towards this end. They tend to focus more on materialism. In the community, these are the players and the divas. And, well, let me stop real quick right there, because this was written a few years ago. The term now would be thoughts. Let me go on. You will more likely find a bohemian in a club or gym as opposed to a church. Bohemians wear their clothes as a magnet. That means their clothes will draw attention to them in a sexual manner. The ultimate bohemian is a prostitute. A key factor with bohemians is that it is difficult for them to pass up short-term pleasure, even if it means long-term pain. Thus, a bohemian male may have a one-night stand with his wife's sister, even though this may break up his marriage. Bohemians allow their sex drive to overcome good sense. Reverent intelligensians are the opposite of the Bohemians in that they do have control over their sex drive, but a little too much control. Intelligensians subconsciously have a fear in relation to their sex drive. They relate to their mates based more on companionship than raw physical attraction. In the community, they are the religious fanatics, the critics, and the prudes. The intelligensians do not radiate sexual charisma, even if people otherwise consider them physically beautiful or handsome. They tend to dress in a way that deflects sexual attention. The ultimate intelligentsian is a nun. Fear prevents an intelligentsian from fully experiencing physical gratification. Their sexual energy is bottled up and stifled. All right, let's get into more of a discussion. Now, even though I use those terms, sensual Bohemians and reverent intelligentsian, if one, you will have a hard time finding those terms on the internet. But many writers, including especially many Christian writers, have seen the same issue. But they will use the term Puritan and hedonist. If you put those two terms in together, you could probably find some articles which talk about those things. And they saw the someone as a Puritan, just like I described an intelligentsia, more bottled up, stifled. Whereas they, what they would call the hedonist, of course, is more out there, more free love, And it's interesting because it is a subconscious thing, and people do see it even if they don't realize it. They probably don't use the terms. For example, and it's not really based on just physical appearance. You could have two twins, right? Two physically beautiful women, just on a pure physical basis, like good bone structure type of beauty, right? Figure 8 body, everything proportioned. One twin is an intelligentsian. She will not wear her hair out. She'll cover her eyes up with glasses. Won't wear any makeup. Won't wear any clothes that will show her shape. Will probably wear flats. And, probably when engaging with the opposite sex will come off maybe as shy. Now, contrast that with her sister who's Bohemian. She'll have her hair done, makeup that makes her look good. She'll have on some tight clothes. She'll be showing those breasts. She has some tight pants on or jeans or a mini skirt. Whereas her sister was wearing flats, she's wearing the 4-inch heels, the straight up fuck me pumps. And it's an interesting thing because I know I did a video recently saying it's more than looks. And now this is one of the reasons. Like, someone can physically look good, right? But if their energy is more intelligentsian, if they, they don't really express sexual presence, they'll get some attention still just on pure looks, but they might not turn somebody on sexually as well as somebody who is more bohemian. Now, I'll give you a good example, a good contrast. Models and porn stars. And this is something, this is something anybody can check out. Do a search on models. Look how they look. Now, they held up as beautiful and all of that, but let's be real with models. For the men, think about the female models that you're looking at. For the women, think about the male models that you're looking at. Do they make you horny? That's the test right there. Do they make you horny? Or is that they look good in more of an artistic way? Like, you can say, oh yeah, they look good, but they don't turn you on. Now, the porn stars, think about it. On a purely physical basis, they might not look, they might not be considered like beautiful in an artistic way, even if the physical features are, the same. But you'll notice they give off an aura that says sex. They give off an aura that says sex, right? And it's more of a energy thing. Now, understand how these polarities are created. The primary agent in creating intelligentsians is religion. Because in Western culture especially, and really most cultures, it's a big thing in Islamic culture, sexuality is very suppressed, extremely so. You know, there's this thought that, you know, engaging in sex before marriage is a sin against God. What's that doing? Even if somebody engages in sex, that's putting a subconscious fear into them. And it's putting a fear into them that will stifle their sex drive. If someone has a subconscious fear of sinning or just doing wrong, they don't even have to be religious. I just say religion is a primary thing, but it could be an unreligious family or something, but they just, you know, it might have been a mother who got pregnant too early, and she decided to scare her daughter away from dealing with boys and having sex. She's gonna have a subdued presence, even if she has like a very good body. And I actually knew a young lady like that, and I don't think she would mind me sharing this, you know, as long as I don't call her name. But you know, her parents, growing up, they never allowed her to dress very sensual or anything. In fact, they dressed her like an old woman. And it really affected her as she tried to relate to men as she, you know, became an adult. Because even though she was otherwise physically attractive, like to the point where I would say she could probably, if she was Bohemian, she could make a lot of money in the sex industry. I'll put it like that, with her body and her looks. But because she was raised with a subconscious sexual fear, you know, that doesn't radiate out. I mean, good person, charismatic otherwise, you know. A lot of dudes saw her as a wifey type, but they didn't see her as that sex pot. And that's because that fear was introduced to her. And see, once that fear is in there, it can stay. It happens with men. Believe it or not, there's a lot of intelligence in men. You know, they'll get a fear. And, you know, it's kind of different. You know, like I said, mainly it's the religion thing. But sometimes there could be a fear of, you know, getting a woman pregnant, or a fear of not being able to perform, or, you know, it could come from anywhere. And yes, men get it too. And interesting thing about intelligentsians, right, is that they do tend to be more intellectual. They not smarter in a way, like in terms of IQ or anything like that, but I would just say more in their head. You know, the type to, like we're talking about relationships, they more likely to approach relationships from a place of logic, which, and I would have to do an entire video on this, really doesn't work. Relationships are more of a right brain thing, not a left brain thing. Logic is left brain. They'll think about stuff more. Right? Like an intelligentsian man, you know, he'll see some beautiful women. You know, he want to get with them. He'll try to think about the steps, the logical arguments he would present to them. Maybe try to find out some like magic words to say or something. And then when they shoot him down, which they probably will, you know, he'll look at it from, he'll still try to analyze it from a logical perspective, like, oh, they should have wanted me. Sound familiar, anyone? That's an intelligentsian. Now, Bohemians see that woman, they ain't gonna think about it too much. They just shoot. They're gonna put on a nice suit or clothes or something. They either make them look prosperous or shows off their muscles. Put on some cologne and go over there and just start talking some shit to the woman that probably don't make any sense to anybody, but it makes an emotional connection to the woman. Now, those are the intelligentsians. That's fear. I mean, that's you know, fear is an issue, and the primary cause is religion. Now, you shift that over to the Bohemians. Fear isn't a problem. Their problem is they're a little out of control. Like, if you ever go on a job, and we probably seen this on all jobs, it's two things. You see, like, that one man who sitting on everybody, hitting on every woman, even though this could cost him his job. which will likely, get some sexual harassment claims against him and everything. All right. But he can't help himself. That's a Bohemian. In fact, a lot of Bohemians, men, especially good bar types, they might be so busy fucking that they can't keep a steady job. It gets them in trouble. And Bohemian women on the job, you ever see women who they dress overly sexual? And I mean, there's something else with that just popped in my head, but I'll get back to that later. But or in another video rather. But you ever see those women, they just dress overly sexual, even when they're in an environment where it's not a good thing? I'm actually familiar with a woman who was an attorney who used to, at the courthouse, she used to dress like she was a straight hoe. I mean, there's no nice way of putting it. You look at it, it's like, damn, you dress appropriately? And she would argue in front of judges like that. Or I knew another woman, she was a aerobics instructor. I mean, she would basically just walk around in some short shorts, some tennis shoes, and a halter top. Like, halfway naked most of the time. And like, this a normal thing, like walking down the street. But you definitely see it on jobs where the women might have tighter clothes than necessary or something. Those are Bohemians. And, on a for real, if you can recognize someone as a Bohemian, you might not want them babysitting your kids. Now, it's deep. There's so much I could halfway do a whole video on this. But I was just thinking about something. Like, definitely look up hedonists and Puritans. Make sure you put them in the same search and see what pops up, right? Also, think about people that you've seen with, they were physically attractive, had a lot going on, but you didn't feel that spark. And women know exactly what I'm talking about. Women know it. They get it right away because they're built to feel a man anyway. So they get this concept right away. But men, it's hard for men to feel it. It's hard for men because we just see a fat ass. But think about something, guys. You ever see that woman? She real pretty, but it's something you can't put your finger on it. But you go for it anyway because she's so pretty. And then you might see a woman maybe not as pretty, but she got your shit standing on edge, leading you and stuff, hitting you in the chest and shit. And your dick ain't even that big, but it hitting you in the chest and whatnot, right? And you're looking at the woman, you can't figure out what it is. It's just that sex appeal. She's likely Bohemian because she's not stifling it. So I mean, check it out. Think about where you've seen this. And like I say, it's very subconscious. It really is subconscious. Because it's funny, consciously people will think them something else. Because I remember I've met a couple women who would say, I'm highly sexual. And I knew they weren't. They were physically attractive, but they didn't give that umph like I'll just be vulgar about it. They didn't give that umph like they were freaks. Even though they said it was like they were intellectualizing sex. And that's another intelligentsian thing. They tend to intellectualize sex. Whereas the Bohemian ain't gonna get that deep. They just gonna go for it. It was like, and I guarantee the intelligentsians, they gonna listen to this video and try to break down stuff. Take some notes and shit. They be like, oh, let me think about this shit. The Bohemians, they gonna be like, damn, let me check this out. The Bohemian women gonna be like, you know what? Rom talking about some stuff, but you know what? He cute though. Seriously, that's generally how it goes, And here's the interesting. Let me end with this. Every single person has both of those drives within them. Every single person has that in them. But the thing is, just by the nature of society, it divides it up. Now, if a person is trying to relate to somebody, right? They're intelligentsian. they might be able to relate on an intellectual level to somebody, but there's going to be something missing. And to the extent that it's missing, that mate might look for it in somebody Bohemian. And then on the other side, yeah, the Bohemian, they got that carnal thing. They got that pure lust. Hey, the beginning of the relationship, fireworks. But after a few months, you're just like, well, wait a minute, this shit need to go someplace. You know, it is even, I'm going to tell you the truth, it's the real secret of nice guys and players. Balancing the intelligentsian and the bohemian nature. That's the real secret. That's why I say nice guys and players. That's the secret. A lot of people don't get that because I ain't come out and say it. And sometimes people weren't ready to hear. Sometimes you got to hit people at a different level, but that's the secret. Like everybody has to have one or the other. And you can see it in the practical society, especially with the female selection criteria. The nice guys and the masked men tend to be intelligentsia. There's a few exceptions. Well, not with the nice guys, but with the masked men, there might be some exceptions. But for the most part, they're intelligentians. Gamesmen and good bars are bohemian. Like another word for the gamesmen, just those thirsty brothers. Y'all seen them. Those thirsty men, they just chase whatever. That's a bohemian thing. No discipline, anything. Like if it moves, they on it. You know, those type. Like if you got teenage daughters, you don't want them around your teenage daughters. No joke. All right. And it's one thing interesting. One last thing about Mr. Goodbar. As a group, believe it or not, they actually tend to be closer to balanced. Closer to it, not quite balanced. And it's hard for anybody to balance, but they tend to be closer, especially as they get older. And I mean, and just to be clear, like I said, both are present within all people. It's just a matter of which direction they lean. With precious few people, almost no one's totally balanced. I haven't met anybody that's totally balanced. You get people closer to it, either from the bohemian side or the intelligence side, they're close to it. So, but that's just some food for thought. All right, food for thought. Just like I said, go out and just start looking at people, testing some people. You know, paying attention, thinking about what I said. Look up hedonist and Puritans. And, you know, and think about yourself. Be honest with yourself. You know, is there any fear in your sexual? You have any fears regarding sex? You don't have to tell anybody. Because we know a lot of people, especially men, you know, they want to be macho, like, yeah, I'm getting it all, I'm tearing up these women. And when deep down you worried about the size of your dick or something, that's a fear. You know? Or you worried about, you know, if you're religious, you worried about sinning. That's a fear. Now the Bohemians, hey, if you that dude who know you got a good woman, but just because some other woman say hi to you, you ready to cheat with her, and you do cheat with her, or, you know, you up there, you know, boning somebody at your office storage room or something, you know that shit can get you fired, but you say, fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway. You're probably bohemian. Just look in the mirrors, everybody. Just look in the mirrors. So, anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.